All right, so I want to walk you through a little bit about what to do with making project 2 to project 3. Now you have to fix project 2 before making project 3. It has to be that way. You're not going to be doing what you need to do. So if you made mistakes in project 2, it happens, it's life. Please use this to help get it fixed. There's also, even if you did it right, we're also upping it and making it all APA style. So you still need to go through this and understand what changes you need to do. So I'll have some common mistakes from project number 2 and how to fix them for project 3, as well as some other hints. So first, I also remind you how to delete the nulls and the spaces. I've reminded you here, if you didn't catch that from the tips and tricks of the video, you can see here that you need to make sure that you selected the nulls, you deleted the row, and then you can see that it looks just like this. That is what you need to do. For the correlation, if you, some of the common problems we had with the correlation table were people forgetting to include the column label when selecting data. I showed that as well in the tips and tricks video. And making sure you change the decimals here to 2 decimals. Remember, using the right click format number. Also changing these to 2 decimals. Make sure this is also changed to 2 decimals. And making sure this one here, and of course this name will work once you get it fixed off and that you actually selected the column labels. Here's your p-value. This is the only one that should be highlighted. Some of you highlighted like everything. So you did the conditional formatting correct, but you highlighted more than you needed to. Next, we have fixing APA, and I'm sorry, these arrows do not like zoom as well. But so first, updating the title to an APA style. So some of you had this already, some did not. So you need to update title 1. You need to change the ones to a dash to make it. And if you didn't get this done in the first ones, you need to rename the variables to make sure they make sense. You lost points on both spelling because this is not spelled correctly in any way, and also in the renaming. So I'll have some examples of how that happens. So for example, helping 3T1 doesn't mean anything, like right here. So the question says, in general, people living in poverty are in that situation because of the poor choices they've made in their lives. So I relabeled it self-inflicted poverty. And then I renamed this tends to find fault with others, almost like a hashtag, to fault finding. So you can see down here how it changes. So you need to make it more readable. This is what it needs to look like in the end. This is an example of what it should look like when it's an APA. With the dashes, and I showed you here, you go insert symbol to get that dash in order to get that. You cannot click the minus sign because you're in Excel and it will confuse it. Next, for the correlation sentence, again, in the video on stats review, I go through this more slowly. So go back to that video. You can go in YouTube and click on that section if you need to. But here is just the quick example of how we take that table and then we talk about the participants in our study. And remember, right here is where we define it. We need to come back and look at how the wording is to know how to do it. They see themselves as someone who finds faults with others is associated with agreeing that people are living in poverty because of the poor choices they make. It's okay that you're taking wording from here as long as your sentence makes sense. You can pull it, but you need to reread it out loud. And then you put the R and then the P, and then you can see table. Now make sure there's a space before and after the equal sign and everything is rounded to 2 decimals. That's very important for APA. And yes, the T is capitalized in table here. It should match whatever this table number is, whatever you've named it, it matches. Don't forget your title and your note. T-test, some of the common mistakes for T-test is also updating the title to APA style. They just often left it like that because that's what popped in. So you will need to change that. Also, remember to include those column labels. Many of you got that this time, but it is a struggle for others. P-value, not being highlighted or highlighting too much. Remember, you only want the p-value highlighted. Also remember what this thing is here with the E minus 35. Remember, this is in your cheat sheet. So yes, this really is 34 zeros after the decimal. So you go right here. That's what it technically looks like. So then you need to change it to 2. It cannot stay in this format and still be correct for APA. And some of those other ways of changing a decimal to 2 decimals in Excel will leave it this way. Or not change it to 2, just turn it into a 0. You need to use the right click, format, cell number to be able to get it to work correctly. On the chart, some of the common mistakes include forgetting to update the title here, the way that we see it in APA. Fixing the scale to reflect the variable scale. Very important. Excel is going to guess the answers here. But if you come back, that's why I had you pull this out. You just thought it was for fun, but I have you pull it out so you can use it. So here it's 1 to 5. And so this should be a 1 and this should be a 5. However they made the mistake, you need to fix it to make it match. And then make sure you label the columns. See, everything is labeled the way it needs to be so that you have it. And you can use other titles, comparison of the means between laziness and does a thorough job. You know, there's lots of ways to do this, but make sure this one, of course, is not perfect. This one is a mistake one. So I'm showing you some of the issues that need to be changed. Now make sure the sentence is based on the p-value right here so that it actually reflects. Including these numbers, I'm showing you where to pull the numbers from. The arrows are pointing just like we did. They're down here, the means, the t's, the p's. And then once the p is significant, this is a super small number, so it's significant, then you look here to see that this one is smaller. Again, this person didn't have the labels done correctly. So you pull that there. And just like the correlation, pull wording from here. You practice this if you watched the video. Again, there's some practices over there too. So this can help you be able to write it in a thoughtful way. I don't want to see there's a significant difference. Those sorts of words should not appear. We just get a normal sentence. Participants are more likely to see themselves as being someone who does a thorough job than someone who is lazy. You just describe it. Again, I don't want to see the words it's significant. There's a correlation. There's just a difference between the two variables. I want it written out in this manner. That is how we do it in APA. So those are some of the main issues that we have. You will be turning it into a PowerPoint. So we will come over to, back over to Canvas. So as we come over to Canvas and take a look over here, we will see that project 3, this is where you can submit your edits for project 2 for project 3, so I can check them and make sure you did them all correctly. And then up here, you have your presentation. This is where you're going to upload your PowerPoint. Right here. So here's where you submit your changes in project 2 for project 3. And this is where you actually submit project 3. So when you upload it here, hopefully this will open for me. So in there, I will open it a different way then. We will just open the assignment. All right, so I opened it straight from my file. Hopefully your Canvas is working. But here is where you're being able to get the instructions on what to do for number 3. You're going to be making a PowerPoint off of the data. Here are your hints to make sure you're doing it correctly, going through the things I just said. It's important to note, so these are your, so this is your like prep sheet to make sure you know how to do it. And then we have so then you're going to be able to you'll follow the example online on how to actually make the project. Note that Give5 is a no-cost civic matchmaking program that connects soon-to-be retirees and retirees with meaningful volunteer opportunities that best fit their skill sets and passions. These are the participants we're talking about. So in the recommendations, you're making recommendations for these older adults that are in this program. This is one of the tricky parts, but think about if I found these t-tests, what will that mean for these people? What does that mean for these older adults that are retiring and looking for being in a matchmaking to know where they should, not matchmaking dating, but matchmaking volunteering?